Yeah, I've been waiting for this one. I've been waiting for this one. Hey, this is the Queversation Awareness Podcast. Y'all see who I got in the building. I got some heavy hitters in the building, all right? You know what I mean? Got the homie R. Sean in the building. You know what I'm saying? You know he about to hold it down. And I got Brooklyn's finest from the Harris Tribe Media Group. Brother, he said, all right? You know what I mean? He definitely repping. You see him. You know what I'm saying? Now, look, before I get into it, y'all make sure y'all support these brothers, all right? Support that critically drinking movement. All right, he got some fire stuff that he got coming through for y'all, man. And definitely y'all support Harris Tribe Media Group, all right? They got some fire on Thursdays, and they got that, and they're so generous. They got that fire for you on the weekend. On the weekend, they come through, all right, in the clutch. That's Cerebro Saturday. Let me tell you something, all right? If you ain't ready to think, okay, listen. That Cerebro Saturday is a lot for you to take in, all right? Get your thinking caps ready, okay? And listen, that Shame Sunday should be a damn shame to yourself, goddammit. All right? Shame Sunday, all right?
I love that. I love it.
All right? And that's what Mrs. C said. She bringing the heat, okay? And now you ladies, sometimes I know that getting your feelings and this and the third. But listen, this is not a man telling you the truth. This is another woman telling you the truth. So we don't want to hear no excuses. Ain't no more excuses for y'all, all right? Okay? So Cerebro Saturdays for the brothers. Mr. He said, you know, he hold us accountable and responsible for our ish in the whole community. And Mr. C said on Saturday. Know what I mean? So that's what it is. But this is the Queversation Awareness Podcast, episode 1. And we are getting into police brutality, man. Know what I mean? We've been seeing the Tyree Nichols thing. We've been seeing a lot of things go on. So what do y'all think about police brutality, man? What is y'all how do y'all feel about it? How has it affected you? Do you have any stories about it? Before that, let me take a quick call for the pause for Great Pill Podcast. Great Pill, what's good, my brother? Good to see you. Thanks for checking in. But yeah, go ahead and rock out, y'all.
Let's see, he said.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure. And to share the panel with you guys is absolutely a pleasure. Sean, always a pleasure to build with you, my brother, and Mr. Best. Always a pleasure. Great topic. Something that's been prevalent all my life. And, you know, to say brutality is to be sensitive about it. I'm from New York City, so, you know, the height of the stop and frisk, you know, the current president at his rarest form, you know, deeming us super predators. And then the Clintons kind of helped push that narrative through to where we were being slammed on the wall every Tuesday and Thursday, you know, civil rights being violated, officers digging in our pockets, you know, telling us what it is versus, you know, giving us the innocent before proven guilty sort of a narrative. And it was very insensitive. It was very depicting. It presented us as criminals. The society at whole believed the narrative that we were these negative criminals that deserve to have their rights violated. And just, you know, from my experience alone, sweep day was every Tuesday and Thursday, and it was almost a guarantee. If you were outside, you would go in jail, you would spend that Thursday and Friday in there, and then, you know, make it home and then go from there. So it's always been prevalent. We have to now start to see it from a total view and a view of totality, where we have to also, you know, put people accountable now to why were they in the positions they were in, the situations and where they had to resist arrest or run from police or whatever the case may be. So now it's a more total view of the whole synopsis, but I've, you know, been there from ground zero and I've had a bird's eye view of it, and it's very insensitive and demeaning to a man trying to grow from a boy to a man. And I think we definitely need to have more conversations about it and also include officers to maybe hear their point of view and get a little more clarity. But a great topic and something I'm incredibly sensitive about and would love to continue to build.
Man, thank you for sharing that, brother. Brother Arshawn, what's good, man?
Also, again, thank you for having me as well. I know this particular subject has never negatively impacted me. Police overreach, sure. Police brutality, not so much, thankfully. Not directly. A lady at my church, though, she lost her grandson due to police shooting. So it has impacted people, indirectly. But it's weird though that we don't have 6 degrees of separation from police violence. Yeah, that should be rare enough that we should be multiple. I might know somebody to know somebody, but it really needs to be for. I should not know 2 people away that somebody that's been lost a family member to police violence. It should be more rare than that. But I do know there's a lot of problems with it. To my best of my knowledge, around 400 unarmed, at least 400 unarmed people are killed around about that number a year. I've seen video of non-threatening, unarmed people taken out by police. There are a lot of problems with the system. I don't believe in that fix the system from within. I don't believe that appeals to political parties works. Not for that. Everybody talks about the unions, but there's nobody trying to bust up the unions for police the same way they busted up the unions for the labor, for the regular everyday Joe. All those unions got busted up, right to work, all across the country. They're attacking labor unions. But the police unions, nobody's come after any of them, not with any real effort. So I don't see anybody making a genuine effort to handle the police brutality and police conduct. Oftentimes, because of the union, if they're fired, it takes a couple of months and they're back on the force anyway, with back pay a lot of times, because the union will protect it. We're past the point where anybody actually cares what's going on with the citizens. We're expendable. But they protect the police force. They incentivize the police force. And I would even say that they incentivize that they incentivize the violence. Is to keep people under control. It's to keep people in fear of them. I've heard a lot of people talk, it's another gang. It's just another gang. So at this point, honestly, and I know a lot of people say not all cops are bad. I get that. I get it. But if so many people across the country are afraid of police interactions, because I'm not afraid to call a firefighter. If there's a fire, I would not even hesitate to call a firefighter. But I know a lot of people that will not call the cops no matter what's going on, no matter how dangerous the situation. They're going to try to figure it out. What kind of, a service? What kind of public service is it where you're afraid to call the people that are being paid to do the job? All of us will call to the garbage man. Hey, we got bulk pickup. We'll call them. Firemen, we'll call them. If we need something from the library, we'll call them in a heartbeat. We'll call McDonald's if we want to know what the special is. But a lot of us are hesitant and afraid to call the cop. And if we see one, we try to go the other way. And that's strange to me that we're paying for that. We're paying for that privilege. To me, that's offensive.
Wow, man. Well, Sean, thank you for cooking that one, brother. That was phenomenal. Man, let me give a shout out to the people that just check in. Salute to House of Ash. Good to see you, family. Good to see you. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Also, salute to M3. M3, I see you in the building. So what up, brothers? What up, M3? Salute. You know what I mean? Also, salute to Lady E. Lady E, good to see you. You know what I mean? And House of Ash is 400 plus a year. Very disheartening. Yes, it is, sister. Yes, it is. Let me say this, y'all. All right? Now, there was a few times where me and a family member, one of my cousins, we would get pulled over. And there was one time we got pulled over. None of us are doing anything wrong. We're just chilling. It's another day in Brooklyn. We're driving around in the summer. We were driving down Eastern Parkway, brother. He said, you know what I mean? Down the Eastern Parkway, just making our moves, making our rounds or whatever, just chilling during the summertime. And they pull us over. They do these sweeps, right? They do these car sweeps where they just shut down the whole Eastern Parkway and they do these car sweeps. So we give them our ID, you know what I mean? It's no problem. And then the officer comes back and he says, today's your lucky day. Have a good day. I'm like, why am I lucky? Like, I ain't never commit no crime, none of that my whole life, but I'm lucky. I have no priors, right? Look, man, I don't even have any illegitimate children, okay? Nothing. I ain't on child support, none of that. And y'all saying it's my lucky day? How am I lucky? Like, how am I lucky, officer? Like, tell me. You know what I mean? You see my ID, you check my record, you see what I've done. You seen I've been a working citizen my whole life for over 30 some odd years. How's it my lucky day? That was crazy to me, yo, that he would even come at me like that. That was wild. Knowing that if he didn't have that badge and was been on the streets, a whole different situation. You know what I mean? Because now you calling out my manhood, you calling out my integrity and character as a man, and I just can't. I don't sit for that. You know what I'm saying? But you did that because you got that badge. You know what I mean? And you got the law behind you. You got the whole government behind you. You are a governing body, and you know that. So you said today was my lucky day. That was wild to me, y'all. That was wild. And I'll never forget that experience either. It's crazy. Me and my cousin looked at each other. We was like, wow. And we just drove off. We just wanted to get up out of there, man. Shout out to Inya. He said, we talking about Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn. Then yes, that's a Jewish area. Yes, sir. That's what I'm talking about. The one and only Eastern Parkway. Know what I mean? Shout out to the Caribbean Day Parade. Y'all know what it is, man. Y'all know what it is. I'm listening and showing support. Thank you, Inya. Inya, thank you. Appreciate you. You know what I mean? Yes, it is, man. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. You know what I mean? So now that we know these things, right, and we know how the system is, how do we keep ourselves aware, right? How do we keep each other aware? How do we keep ourselves aware? Should we even have awareness? Like, why can't I just go to the mall? Why can't I just go outside? Why can't I just go down the street and get something to drink or get something to eat? Or just go shopping for my loved ones or for myself? You know, do we have to be aware? Do we have to prep ourselves, our kids, the ones that we love, our spouses? You know what I mean? Oh, sorry about that. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Sorry about that. I didn't know. My apologies, man. I'm sorry. So, yeah. So with that being said, should we make each other aware? You know what I mean? What y'all think?
And I'll just go real quick. Honestly, absolutely. Awareness is always better than ignorance. So awareness is always a better position. You can, the known knowns. If you know there are threats, it's best to know where they are, who they are, and how they operate. And although, again, just like most citizens, you know, there's that whole myth about black criminality and how we do most of the crimes. I get that. But the proportion of black people who do most of the crimes, it's less than 1%. And I would probably think that most of the police force is probably just law-abiding police officers. But the percentage of those that will do harm are protected by those that don't. The same way we talk about in our community. There are a lot of criminals that are living with families that do not commit crimes, but they will keep drug dealers, abusers, predators. We do protect and keep those that look like us and that are from our number. Same thing happens with the police force. That's a human nature thing. So I do believe awareness is important because you can't count on a group of people that are solely responsible for policing bad conduct to also police themselves. So you have to be aware of how they move. That's essential for you because there's nobody that can keep them in control. There's nobody above them. The mayors are afraid of the police force because they've given a group of people that are in solidarity the guns and the military armor and the tanks. They've let them have all the dangerous toys. What's a mayor in a suit going to do against that? So everybody needs to know what they're up against. Whether you encounter it or not, you just need to know what's out there. That's my opinion.
I agree with everything Arshawn said. And the only thing I would sprinkle on top is the same thing I would sprinkle on top to our community in regards to relationship. You limit access. If something isn't agreeable with you, like the police, you limit your access to them and you limit their access to you. You know, you go about your business, you have an itinerary, you go, you do what you're supposed to do, you take your ass home. I think it, sounds docile and it may sound elderly and maybe it took maturity for me to see this. But, again, like I say about the lunchroom analogy, I got in the most trouble when I was outside. Like I said, Tuesdays and Thursdays was sweep day, but you ain't hear me say I sat my ass in the house on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Because I still needed to be outside. I still needed to get things done and just trying to navigate through the minefield. One step, kaboom, black suits fill the room. So, just limit your access. Fellas, be more purposeful with yourself. We talk about it all the time. It's no reason you should be getting shot at 11 o'clock in the morning. You should be at work. You shouldn't be getting shot at 3 o'clock in the morning because you should be in the bed getting ready for work. So again, and not to say you gotta have this 9 to 5 job, but you should have this mindset of discipline, of itinerary, of focus, of purpose. And with that, limits your access to pretty much everything because you're so concentrated on what you're doing. You don't have time to be around police, to be around negativity, to be around dysfunction. So, I would just say limit your access, move a little more purposeful, and police will be a less appearance in your life just because.
Man, that is completely true, y'all. For real, for real. Let me give a shout out to the people that just checked in. Gotta take a pause for the cause. Shout out to Quantum Love Metaphysician Twin. What's going on? What's going on? Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Also, shout out to Yellow Pill Coffee Company. You know what I mean? Definitely, yo. Y'all know about Yellow Pill Coffee. Y'all not like and subscribe yet to all social media platforms. Yellow Pill Coffee. Don't know what y'all doing, man. That brother got some dope content. He talking about wrestling, talking about gaming, he talking about social issues, relationships, everything, man. That brother got some dope content. Salute to Yellow Pill, man. Much love to you, brother. You know what I mean? Also, salute to the homie Truth and Purpose Nexus. Man, salute to Truth, man. Salute to you too, man. You're one of our favorites as well. Definitely check out Truth on all social media platforms as well. Check him out on YouTube. He got some great content as well, man. For real, for real. Also, I trying to pat himself on the back.
No, I was tapping in. I was tapping in.
You tapping in?
Tapping in. I was tapping in.
Oh man! Salute also to Lola, aka Scully, aka Love Experience, aka Miss O'Shun. What's going on? What's going on? Make sure y'all follow Lola on everything that she's doing, man. On relationships. You know what I mean? Chronicles of Lola, Black Files, Ladies Night coming March 25th. Man, definitely support that sister. Dope sister, man, for real. All right, so I think we should be aware, but my thing is that I think in the same instance, right, if we're supposed to be living in freedom, right, can't we just live in freedom? Like, that's the thing, right? We got civil rights, right? I know we don't have equal rights, but we have civil rights. There's a difference, right? You know what I'm saying? I feel you, Yelly. Yes, he'll come steal all your shoelaces, for real. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. Why can't I just walk around, you know what I mean, and just have a normal, regular, basic life? You know what I'm saying? Why do I have to be on guard all the time? You know what I mean? My Chinese brother ain't got to be on guard. My Middle Eastern brother ain't got to be on guard. My Hispanic brother ain't got to be on guard. But I got to be on guard for what? Why I got to walk around, you know what I mean, with a sword and shield? You know what I mean? Like I'm out here in battle or something like that. Why can't I just walk around and just enjoy the nice weather? Okay? You know what I mean? Yeah, I know people don't want to be free for real. I know, Quantum. But I think that's a problem. Like, why do we have to always be walking on eggshells? Right? And here's my thing. Why are we not fighting, you know what I mean, to have a crime bill passed for us, just like our Asian brothers and sisters got a crime bill passed for them? You know what I'm saying? Because I think that would allow us to really walk around and be cool, you know what I mean, instead of always having our guard up. You know what I mean? Like, what y'all think about that?
You can go ahead, Mr. He said.
Well, this might be a little insensitive. Somebody always got to be the bad guy in the story, and unfortunately, we've taken that mantle, and to give us, quote unquote, a crime bill would make us look more human in the eyes of society. So I think that in order to continue to keep the narrative spun that, we are the insensitive ones, we are the perpetrators. So how can we make the perpetrators, the victims at the same time? It's really unique because, again, so many crimes have been perpetrated against us, so many, insensitivities, so to speak, and never has there been a law, not only in our consideration, but there's never been a law written by a Black person that a white person has to abide by. So again, just the insensitivity and the callousness that it creates, as long as we continue to be the bad guys, quote unquote, whenever something is done wrong to us, police violence, insensitivities. It's really not that hard to look at. It's a callous on America in regards to us, that, you know, some things that we're able to take, even in the sisters, you know, going to the doctor, it's just some certain insensitivities, certain, you know, lights that we just don't get spun in a positive fashion. And I think this is just unfortunately one of them. So in order to change that, I think we have to continue to have these conversations and, you know, be a little more open to embrace the police in conversation. Like I said, having them on panels like this and having discussions with them in our time would give us a better understanding and kind of create a liaison and bring us closer together and understand each other. That's the best I got.
I like that too. I like what you said at the end, the humanization, because that's really what happens a lot of times. We get into a group, we're only around our group, and everybody else is a non-distinct other. We can take them or leave them. Anything can happen to them, like what do they call that? The Good Samaritan. You know, we can just leave somebody on the side of the road. We don't know them, but they're not human to us. They're just an idea. I would even say with the Black Lives Matter, Black lives is an idea. A lot of people, no matter what the color, they don't see Black people as people unless they have a name and a face to put on it. No matter, I ain't talking about white, Black, anybody. It doesn't matter what Asian people, Jewish people, whatever group you are. A lot of us don't see other groups as humans unless we have a name and a face. They're just an idea in our head. But to your question specifically, the reason we have to stay aware, man, because the cost of freedom is eternal vigilance. The cost of freedom is eternal vigilance. So if you become dependent upon somebody else for protection, they can soon become your master because they control your safety and security, which is the first thing that you need to establish as a human being or a group of people. You need to be secure. And if somebody else is doing the securing, that means they're a greater threat than you are, which means all they have to do is turn the gun or the threat the other way. They can turn from being your friend, turn to being your foe, and immediately you're oppressed, enslaved, whatever it is. So the cost of freedom is eternal vigilance. So even if you're creating a police force, so to speak, when you're arming them with guns, if you're not vigilant, you soon become so dependent on them that you can never check them, no matter how abusive or corrupt their behavior becomes. So that's why we have to be aware. A lot of us, out of laziness or fear or whatever, we've given over all of our autonomy, our agency. We don't want to know. We don't want to ask questions. We don't want to be involved. We don't want it to cost us anything. So we've given over our freedom because of that. Somebody else is in charge of everything that we rely upon. So of course, in some facet, whether we acknowledge it or not, we are enslaved to a large body of people that control everything. I mean, clearing the trash from the streets, the police, our food. Like, we don't control our food. Most people would not know how to have a child if the hospitals were to shut down. If they just shut down, all the doctors and nurses refused to report. How would people even know how to birth their kid? They'd be hoping if they squatted right, the baby will pop out and somebody be there to catch it. Like, we're dependent upon so many people for knowledge and access that we're basically enslaved to a system of living. Our society has enslaved us, and we're comforted by the toys and tools that we have. So awareness is important. If we ever want to come out from the chains that we're in, boy, we're going to have to become more aware than we currently are. It's uncomfortable because we've lost so much knowledge. But if we want something different, we're going to have to be different people. Otherwise, we better just suck up what we got.
Man, that's a fact. Man, I always said, man, there's only a few people that can really rock me on this mic like this. And I was showing Mr. He said, definitely one of them, man. Good grief. Woo. Shout out to, you know what I mean, Cornhusker, you know what I'm saying, Mr. Nebraska. You know what I mean? She giving out the shout outs to the whole team and everybody. You know what I mean? She said she's delivering babies out here. I never knew you could do that. But if you could, you know what I mean, let us know. You know what I mean? We know what they call that? What they call that for a woman that can deliver a baby? I forget this is a term for it. I forget what they call it.
Midwife or something?
Midwife, yeah, there you go. We know you doing the midwife thing, you know what I mean? But since you are, you know what I mean? Okay, all right, okay, you're not supposed to lay down and have a baby. Okay, give us some tips, sis. Let's go. Quantum says, look what happened when the infant formula ran out in the stores. Women forgot they're supposed to breastfeed. That's a fact.
Shoot, remember the toilet paper?
That toilet paper thing was real. People was really fighting over that. I wasn't. I was in my car, but a lot of people fighting over that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we got definitely know more about natural birth. Sister, yeah, definitely. But listen, with that being said, like, okay, so now because here's the thing, right? We pay their taxes, right? We're paying taxes to have these people do certain things, do certain services within our community, within our work environment and everything else, right? So why is it that we are slaves to them though? Like I gotta talk about the slave point that you made, or showing like how are we a slave to them? You know what I'm saying? Like how does that make sense? And I want Mr. Heath's perspective on that slave point too as well. So I was trying like how are we a slave to them though? Like how does that make sense though?
I get you. It's because they have the autonomy and we don't. Like they get to choose. If a cop rolled up on any one of us right now today, they could tell us to get on the ground. We're gonna do that. If they tell us to stand up, we're gonna do that. If they tell us to get against the wall, they're gonna do that. If they tell us to go inside the house, we're gonna do that. We are at their beck and call, at their mercy. Those of us that do buck back, a lot of times, what they call it, resisting arrest. They weren't even trying to arrest you. But the moment you talk back or do something they don't want to do, resisting arrest. Again, you weren't even up for arrest. There was no arrest warrant. You committed no crimes. But that force of law has made us enslaved. We can't do that in reverse. We cannot hold the cops accountable, especially as Black people. I've seen some, there's some our fairer complected brethren and sistren. I've seen them do a lot of armed carry in public, in open carry states. And they could be like, hey, look, I got a gun. I don't need a permit. It's an open carry state. Cops would be like, okay, stand down. I've seen Black people try that. It didn't go the same way. It did not happen the same way. And we are not as safe to do something lawful like open carry in an open carry state. So if the law doesn't apply to us and we have to comply to the law and we have no recourse to get things, our grievances fixed in an efficient and effective manner as applied by the law, then at some point we're at something less than citizenship. I don't know a term for in between citizenship and slave. I honestly don't. There probably is one, like a serf or a vassal. I don't know. There's probably something from antiquity. I just don't know a term for it. But I know we're less than free. But I know I'm more than in bondage. So we need a word for in between. I don't know what that's called though.
Yeah, less than free. Wow. Okay. That's an interesting point, Arshawn. Mr. Issa, what you got to say, bro?
I think it's a matter of, again, just being guilty until proven innocent. It's a uphill battle, to fight the system, especially coming from the neighborhoods that inner city young Black kids come from. They don't have the knowledge, they don't have the economic savvy to fight the system, so they get locked up, and it's an uphill trajectory to get out. You lose 2 or 3 days, you may get fired from your job, you got a couple of fines to pay. So it's just such an uphill battle that, like Arshawn said, you add in that ingredient of what I say you do, or else you're the enemy, so you're going to be told to sit down or lay down or get on your knees, and if you don't oblige, it's gonna not go good for you. And again, you the one that has to fight 2 or 3 days to get out. You're the one that has to come up with a lawyer or take the legal aid, and it's an uphill battle. And they know that in these urban communities, the people who lock up, the people who rights they violate, it's gonna be a tough road back, in society and in everyday life, explaining why you weren't home for 2 days, explaining why you keep getting locked up, explaining why you continue this dysfunctional lifestyle. So they know that it's a perfect storm of politics and everyday life that they have the upper hand. And like you said, we become not slaves, but we definitely become some sort of indentured servants when it's our tax dollars that are paying their salaries. And You know, sometimes a person may say, well, a criminal doesn't pay tax dollars, but I'm pretty sure his mom or his uncle or his cousin or someone does. And I don't think we deserve, you know, as men and as women to pay the salaries of these men to violate our rights. And, you know, this is why we say Black Lives Matter, because they are the ones that are trained professionals that go through training and take an oath to protect and serve life. And, you know, for them to turn around and disregard that and then get hit with administrative leave and, you know, desk duty where they're still being compensated, but, you know, slapped on the wrist, it's really insensitive and disheartening to a person. So I think it's guilty before proven innocent, and it's an uphill battle to fight yourself into innocence. So that perfect storm results in what we see.
Man, thank you, brother. Thank you. Want to give a shout out to it's Party Long. Also, salute to Mr. She said. You know what I mean? Said peace and salute to the chat. Mr. She said might come up. She might not. You know what I mean? I know she's busy kind of doing something, but she's definitely part of the Queversation Awareness podcast family. You know what I mean? She's definitely part of the stream. You know what I mean? And she definitely will give her perspective when she can. All right, y'all? You know what I mean? And definitely support her and Shame Sunday. Should be ashamed of yourself, goddamn. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I got to drop that in there. You know what I mean? So, okay. You know, a lot of people are in agreement for that. You know what I mean? Now listen, this is a closed panel unless, you know, Brother Hashan or brother, he said want y'all to come up. They gave me the thumbs up, so y'all can come up. If y'all see the link, I can definitely come through. All right? But, you know, come through, you know, come through correct, because we will get you up out here. All right? We definitely will. Now, with that being said, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so now, should we do this? Should we do this in our community? Should we have our own police force, right? The Jewish people have their own police force, right? Should we take that step? You know what I mean? Should we now economically and socially come together, politically come together, and have our own police force to protect our own? Why not do that? You know what I'm saying? What do y'all brothers got to say about that?
Man, listen, I need a police force for this chat because they're going to keep talking about how young I am over here. I need somebody to police the chat. That's what I need.
Oh my gosh, Lord have mercy. Listen, our Sean is 25, all right? So I'm asking y'all, all right? Thank you.
But honestly, I mean, for me, I honestly do believe we kind of need our own police force, or at least police that are from our own communities. The importation of police and teachers is really harming our community. This is my opinion. Like bringing people in that don't care about us, but because they get there's a term we've been me, Bree, and Yella been talking about in the dating space, the accountability radius. Like people that can do something to your child or to you and then drive on home outside of they ain't got to look at the people in the eye in the neighborhood. That accountability radius, we need people that are close. Like there's got to be some proximity. I think that's essential for anybody like landlords that live in another state. Their properties are almost always problematic. You need to be able to hold people accountable. That's the problem with the break. And for me, community, village, those require proximity. Like that way you can hold people accountable. You can see them face to face. They can look upon the damage that's being happening every day and have to either live with it or change it. I think that's essential. I think we really need to start forming our own in some kind of way. I don't know how. I don't know what it would look like, but I do think we need that.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree at all. I think that we have to have people that are invested in the community as well, and have to have some sort of, again, liaison and someone that just can be the bridge between the police department and, you know, the people of the community, because the insensitivity that's shown, again, you know, coming from a neighborhood where they would come and throw us on the wall, And like I said, go through our pockets, lock us up for drinking beer or whatever the case may be. But when we get out and go into their neighborhoods, they're doing exactly what they arrested us for. They're just relaxing on their yard. They're drinking a beer and, again, just enjoying the quality of life. So it's just insensitive when you have these people that come into your community to police your community, when you can have people from the community, very organic. And again, they just come with a different level of sensitivity. They know everyone in the neighborhood. They're a little more invested in the children. They're a little more invested in the women. They're a little more invested in the schools and the hospitals, because it's a product of their community, and they're, more of a reflection than authority. And I think it should be more, policing versus controlling and patrolling. It should be, more liaison. It should be more mediation. It should be more, de-escalation. But with the authority comes, the violence, comes the dictation. And I think that's what people deem as insensitive. But if people lived in the neighborhood, if people were organically from the neighborhood, grown in the neighborhood like a garden, and then came to police the community, I think they would be received a lot better.
If I may add something on that real quick, I would just analogize it to how people are with their kids, and how they are with their nieces and nephews. Man, you know what your nieces and nephews are like grandkids. You be like, whoa, I'm glad I get to get them back. I don't have to deal with the ramifications long term. So you get to do some crazy, give them a bunch of sugar, give them a bunch of sugar, and then send them home, or spoil them and then send them home. It's not my responsibility, whatever the outcome is. But your kids, oh, you on top of it, because the proximity, I have to live with the outcomes. So I definitely, what Mr. He said, absolutely right. You need that accountability. You need the proximity to create people, that investment, because your outcomes affect me personally. If you live in a neighborhood where this crime is happening and you choose not to police it, it's going to impact you because you live there. The person you don't police today might be the person that burglarizes your home tomorrow. So the cop would be a lot more thoughtful, because anything will come back on him and his family that have to live in that bubble.
True indeed.
Man, let me give a shout out, give a call to the pause for Bree. Bree, what's going on? Good to see you, sister.
Hey, Bree.
I follow Bree on all social media platforms. She be cooking a lot on Quickly Drinking, and she also be cooking a lot on her own platform too, y'all. Support Kawhi Bree, all right? Very phenomenal sister, man. Great perspective as well.
Absolutely.
I love the different color hairstyles she do as well. She's very, very creative in what she does, her backgrounds and all that. Check her out, man. She's dope. Now listen, I think a police force would help, okay? You know what I'm saying? I think it definitely will help out. I think it definitely will help us to, have something that's our own, that we can go to, that we know it's kind of like a militaristic, type of thing, right? We got our own little military man, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? We have our own little military, you feel me? So I think that will help. But I'm gonna ask a hard question here, right? Let's get into it. I'm gonna ask a real hard question. Do we bring this on ourselves? Do we bring the brutality on ourselves sometimes? Y'all, come on, man. Y'all know how brothers and sisters be moving out here. Do we sometimes bring it on ourselves? Now, before I keep going, I'm a gentleman. Y'all know I'm a gentleman, right? I'm such a gentleman. You know what I'm saying? So I got to introduce my sister here. You know what I'm saying? I see you in the back. I see you chilling. You know what I mean? Got to introduce Scully, a.k.a. Lola, a.k.a. Miss O'Shea. What's going on?
Hey.
Hey, babe. How are y'all?
Hey, Lola. What's up?
Good. How are you tonight?
Good.
What's going on, Lola? What's going on? You know
Well,
what I'm saying?
I want you to chime in because I agree with everyone here. But as you know, I have to just kind of give my 2 cents with worth of that, right? So what I wanted to say is this, because I work with the Jewish community a lot as it pertains to funding their security personnel. Okay. The question isn't about, well, should we have our own police and our own, right? Because science has said that you should have people that look the same, policing the same. Even science says that, and they know that. The issue is, well, where's the money going to come from to fund a private police force or a police force that's incentivized enough for Black people to even want to be on it? Keep in mind, every place in America is not like some of these places where police are just out of pocket. There's places in Baltimore and places like Baltimore where police get killed for nothing. Seriously, they get killed for nothing. I've seen it happen 3 times growing up on my block, and that's just on my block, not the one around the corner, and it's 60,000 down the street. That's just on my block. And so, you know, I mean, there's places where police roll around and they feel like God. And there's other places where police wouldn't dare stop nobody, even if they've seen a drug deal. Unless they've seen white powder sprinkling out of somebody's hand or pocket, they are not stopping anybody, let alone frisking people. So I think we got to really dial down when it comes to both police brutality, because it happens in certain places with certain people for certain reasons. And now we got to narrow down, well, okay, what's going to mitigate all of that? And my thing is this: if you're going to go the private route, that's cool. But how many people in this chat want to pay 20% more on their rent to have a private Black police force policing their neighborhood? Or let's say 5% more on their mortgage, you know, as far as the taxation for a private police force. This is in part how the Jewish community pays for their private police force. Don't get me wrong, they get grants from the government to fund their police staff. They do, but it's under certain organizational type of things. So it's like, but they get it. They qualify for it just like anybody else could qualify for it. If all of the churches in the state band together and say, all of our neighborhoods where our churches are at need security personnel, we need the government to pay for it. There is money out there for that, but there's no central place for Black churches. Now, the Jewish community, they on one, okay, as in 1 and 1,000 when it comes to connecting to each other from coast to coast. The Catholic community, kind of, you know, when you talk about the archdiocese office, but, you know, when it comes to the Christian community, Muslim community, these are communities and other communities within said communities that are, in a sense, on the fringes of funding for things like that. So when we look at the Jewish community, you can't look at them like, well, they're banding together. No, they're paying for that. Okay, that's what they're doing. They don't mind that extra percentage because, like, all of them feel like they target. Yeah, they will pay that extra. But in our community, we're not suffering like they're suffering. So their 20% feels like 40% to us. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't even live in a bad neighborhood. And 40% of my income right now is a stretch. I might do 3%, but not 40. I'm not doing 40. And I mean, I make good money. And I live in a good neighborhood, and I can't do what that 20% would feel like, let's say in, you know, West Philly or West Baltimore, East Baltimore, wherever. Like, no, it's different. So, I mean, I think, yeah, we do have to tackle this, but we have to be just as creative at tackling and mitigating this issue as we are with as dynamic as this issue is. Keeping in mind, right? I've heard that police forces are now exercising the right to hire illegals as police because, first of all, you can't have a record that they can track to be on the police force. There's certain other things, qualifications, right? Like you have to be able to, you know, have a handgun, stuff like that. If most of the Black community don't qualify, it's easy to put white people and all these other types of people in your community when you don't qualify to police your own community. That's another thing. And that's not their fault. That's not the police department fault. It's not white people's fault that they got an application process and it's the same as working at Target. If you have like open convictions, you can't work at Target, nor can you be a police officer. So if you can't work at Target, I mean, I'm just saying these are issues. Plus, it doesn't pay well unless you go and grind. Most Black people do not want to put their life on the line for 30K. I'm not putting my life on the line for 80K. Right now, I could have took a job paying 90K a year if I was willing to relocate at any given moment they call me, right? For at least 3 months. And I'm like, nah, I ain't doing it. I'm sorry. My ancestors worked hard. I'm not doing that. Yes, I'm lazy. I'm lazy for that. So I'm not doing that. Not for 85. Now, if they push that to 130, I'll start thinking about it. But not for 85. So you see how that 30K don't go nowhere when it comes to police officers. Your life on the line for 30 and 40K. Yeah, I wouldn't be a police officer for that. And here's how they get you. If you got a whole degree, they'll pay you $2,000 a month. That's gonna get ate up in taxes anyway. But okay. But this is the struggle. So we can't just talk about police brutality and police in our own neighborhood. We got to talk about the actual logistics of getting people in place. Now, My idea was not to deal with the police force at all. My idea was as a let's suppose you're just a black man that can open a business, right? You can own a gun, but you're not fit to get on no police force. If you open your own private security company, right, and you work with organizations within your community as far as funding and payment and stuff like that, and you work those politics out so that it benefits everybody, the community can have its own police force. It just won't be through the conventional means. But that means that you have to be involved with your neighborhood association, and every neighborhood has one, no matter how poor it is. This is something you got to be involved with if you want to be useful in that way as someone who owns a company and can employ other men to serve under you for security. That means you're going to have a fleet of vehicles. You got to be able to insure vehicles, insure people. It takes a lot, like any business. But this is one way, and I'm not saying it's the only way, but this is one way you can mitigate that security issue and still be within all rights of the law. Now, mind you, like I said, in places like where I'm from, having private security in a neighborhood, they have organizations set up to do that already, not just with the police force. They do. However, in other places like maybe California, Nebraska, places like that, that might not go over too well. You might have to do some extra footwork there. But here's the thing, it's up to everybody in every region to do this work as far as their own police force. Right now, where I'm at, like I said, police ain't walking around here with an S on their chest. My father done called the police department a lot of times complaining about the fact that they scared bitches and won't step out their crews to do a shit unless a body is laying on the ground. Like, this is how bad it is out here. And this is in part because of decisions made by the state's attorney, the governor, when it comes to stop and frisk. I mean, you really have to be committing a whole crime on tape, and it's undeniable for them to stop and do anything. So this is where we at in some places. So, I mean, I can't say more, but I just wanted to just kind of put that in there.
Man, all right, so Lola, thank you for cooking as always. You know how we do. You know what I mean? Shout out to Daryl Long. I see you too, brother. You know how we do. Also, got to give a shout out to him. Make sure y'all follow Daryl Long on the social media platform. He got some new stuff cooking up, coming real soon, all right? Also, got to give a shout out to our sister, Red Lipstick Vibes, man. Man, Red Lipstick Vibes got some phenomenal content, y'all, all right? If y'all not like and subscribe to Red Lipstick Vibes, and I don't know, y'all not really catching the vibes, man. Y'all not catching the right vibes. Make sure y'all support the sister on all social media platforms, all right? You know what I mean? She really has some dope lives. So Lola said a lot, y'all. What do y'all think? Anybody got any pushback? Anybody got any feedback? What y'all think? You know
I do have a little bit of pushback, if you don't mind. My connection is dropping, so hopefully y'all can hear me. But I see myself going in and out.
You good, bro?
The one thing I wanted to say, Lola said it's not the white people's fault that you don't meet the criteria. Like you don't qualify for Target, you don't qualify for the police. I'm with you, except for the fact that they are responsible for their own hiring criteria. They set the bar for who they hire and who they won't. And they also are the police. So the people who investigate and charge crime are they. So the person that determines if you have a conviction and a charge and who sets the criteria for what disqualifies you is the same body of people, and they're not black. So unfortunately, I do believe white people and the police are completely responsible for not hiring who they don't want to hire, and also being complicit in, like you said, the data supports that there's a wide disparity in the way policing is handled between black, brown, white, Asian. Like black people and brown people are far overrepresented in policing, charging, convictions, longer convictions. So the type of things that would disqualify you are being overrepresented in black people, not because of an inherent criminality, but because of a systemic mentality that creates a sharper focus, a hypervigilance on certain populations that they distrust. So that would be my pushback on that one point.
Well, what do you think about the psyche valve, if that's the case?
You said the psyche valve?
Yeah, because a lot of people fail on that. Now I'm not saying why they fail, okay? Because I don't know what kind of questions they ask. They might be asking about porn. They might be asking about all sorts of stuff that I don't think they should be asking about for real. But I get it because the federal government does a similar psyche bill. So if they're disqualifying people based on, let's say, criminal background, based on let's say, because they do ask your people around your neighborhood about you before they actually like recruit you. If they're making it hard to qualify, right, because they're up in the standings or whatever, would you be in agreement with the fact that maybe once for the ones that do qualify that don't get it, that maybe that might have something to do with, okay, now we're dealing with a different level of criteria when it comes to the psych evaluation? Because here's the problem. Some of these, actually all of these police officers that are committing these heinous crimes, one has to wonder, how did they pass a psych eval when you look into their past? So I'm wondering, well, okay, if you're saying, well, it's the white people's fault, is it the white people, are they purposely overlooking failed psych evals for some and not giving enough credit to pass psych evals for others that might just so happen to be black?
My answer to that, briefly, would be that the psych eval is almost irrelevant. Like, it doesn't matter what they do. Like, the job is going to create a psychological problem in any normal person. So as soon as you hire somebody to do a dangerous or violent job, you're creating the conditions that are going to break somebody's psyche, which is why a lot of soldiers end up with PTSD. So you're going to send them in high contact zones with a lot of hostility. Everybody's on their worst day. So nurses and police and probably even fire, they don't need psychological evaluations. They need psychological services so that they can continue to operate near peak capacity. So even if you get somebody at pristine psychological condition, well formed in the womb, brought up well, but then you have them see 18 murderers in one hot week in the summer, that might damage a person. Doesn't matter what you tested as the baseline on the front end. How do you come out on the back end thinking about people that killed 18 people that look like themselves? Do you think about them as people? Well, they're out there in the street just killing each other. How could anybody do that? How could a human just sit there and shoot up it's a vigil. They shot up a vigil. There were kids and babies out there. Who would do that? Your mind has to make up something to answer that kind of a question. No human being would do anything like that. What does the psych evaluation up front does? Nothing for that. You need continued psychological services to account for the stress that would happen on the job. Because there's no other way that you could suss that out when people are seeing the kind of stuff that they're seeing in the streets. Even on it, again, the people that you're talking about, black people going for these type of jobs, the fact that we're seeing that in our daily lives. So the psych eval might weed us out because we're seeing the very things up front that break police officers on the back end. So we can't even get in to get the job because we're broken up front. They get in and then get broken. Like that could be a clear indication that the places that we're trapped in are meant to break people. And it's not a fault of us for not being able to qualify. It's a fault of the system to leave people in such conditions that they get broken. And it breaks the most highly trained, highly decorated group of people that you trust with the lives of your entire population. Like, to me, that's what it says to me.
Well, you know what? I have to agree with you on that 1,000%, because I've seen that. I don't have any pushback for you on that, but I'll say this, right? Okay, the thing I don't like about what the hiring process, not even the hiring process, but when they get in there, okay, especially black officers, because this is why I know what you're saying. There's blame to go around, right? But like white people, they always felt like the only thing worse than an N-word is an N-word lover. It's the same thing going back. Okay, I don't blame them for that because I feel the same way going back if that's the case. And when I say N-word, I mean ignorant. Okay, I don't mean as in black person. And same thing going back. All right, if you're gonna love a white supremacist, right, and stuff, then I'm gonna put you over there with them as far as like who I'm aiming at. But that's just what that is. Now, here's the real issue. If you got black officers on the force, right, that know racism is practiced on them within the department, right? Yet when these officers see these other officers doing these obviously racist things, right? Why aren't we seeing any? Why aren't these officers creating a bigger stink to say, not only are they killing people out there, they're doing stuff to us too? This is where I get pissed off because I see it. Like sometimes when I come through my city, I see how black officers are treated from white officers by other officers. Like I've seen that. I've seen how certain I've just seen. There's terrible circumstances I witnessed between officers, right? Like, and I'm not even talking about the circumstances where officers kill each other and then blame it on other people and stuff like that. And it's usually on some race. Race is somewhere in it, whether or not it's the race of the person they're lying on to say, oh, this person killed this officer and stuff, or the race of the person doing it. It's always race somewhere. I don't know. It's always race. But this is where I get tired because they know what's going on, yet they don't say anything. And my thing is, what you trying to say? Your $35,000 a year job? What you trying to say? I don't understand. If your pay is so low and they don't treat you fairly, what are you trying to say versus all of you guys standing up and saying? Because here's the thing. When they turn their back on the governor, you know what I'm talking about, right? When they literally all stand in line and they turn their back to you, oh, they can get in unison when it comes to some shit like that. But when it comes to themselves being racially profiled, right? Within the department, oh no, ain't nobody gonna turn their back on nobody. Ain't nobody gonna stand up and do nothing. And I'm sitting here like, this right here is, I mean, this is what takes the cake for me. So, I mean, I want to blame who I want to blame, but I can't knock what you're saying. I'm just gonna say when I see my own acting a certain way, it kind of negates everything the other side does. When I see my own acting a certain way, I forget everything everybody else did because I'm looking at my own. And
that's a little insensitive, though. You ever heard of Stockholm syndrome?
Yeah.
You know what it means?
I don't know what it's legally defined as, but I've loosely understood it through the lens of other people referring to it and talking about it.
Got you. Yeah, you could be held prisoner so long that you actually start to take up for your captor. And that's what I kind of analogize some police. I'm not gonna say all because there are awesome police officers like Brother Diesel and a host of others that I have immense respect for bringing awareness to this platform and just to people in general. But I do know that there's a thing called the blue wall. And just the blue wall. The blue wall.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of alludes to when they say, blue lives matter. Just the blue is the cop color. And the blue wall is like the blue wall of silence. It's like the code of ethics. And it's also like no snitching. They kind of have the same policy within their department where you don't, turn your back on a fellow officer. You don't tell on another officer. And, in regards to the way they police, a lot of them adhere to that and subscribe to that narrative. What I wanted to add to the conversation that, you kind of went on was the funding. When you said, we have to have a certain amount of funding and it has to come from somewhere. And you're absolutely right, understandable. But I think, that's why I said you should have people that come from the community. So again, they're more like an investment. When we watched, little Petey grow up and now he's going to be a police officer in our community. And again, understand and be a liaison between the department and the neighborhood. We can understand our taxes are going to go up a little bit and we can pay that. Again, maybe it comes with maturity, owning a home, knowing that you want to live in a safe environment, and maybe younger people might not ascribe to that because that's not really, high on their priority chart. But I think that, us as people who are homeowners, taxpayers, and responsible citizens wouldn't mind as much of funding and putting things in place to fund a private police unit. That was a great observation, and I just wanted to maybe just add a little bit of solution-based conversation to how it could possibly be done, or why it wouldn't be so hard to get something like that done if we felt like we were investing in our community and in our people. But great conversation. Thank you for the contribution, Miss Lola.
No problem. I would say the biggest challenge I can see in that is you can get homeowners associations on board, but when you get homeowners associations on board that are in neighborhoods where there's only a 10% buyer's rate and the rest of them are renters, or boarded up housing where people have not paid taxes on the house in 20, 30, 40, 50 years and it's dilapidated, this is where you're going to run into funding issues, because now the price for that goes up on the people who are there versus, for instance, in my neighborhood where every house, the taxes on it is almost some people's salaries alone. That's going to be a lot different, and every house is accounted for. And if you don't pay it, they come and put you. Like, I know you've heard some homeowners associations is rougher than the police. I guess because that money coming in. But this is where the issue of funding will come. And so therefore, that's why I said you have to tackle this issue per region. So if you like out here in Maryland, out Prince George's County, that wouldn't be a problem. That would not be a problem. That's one of the richest Black neighborhoods in this country. But if you circle over to South Baltimore, you're going to have a different issue. One, because people are making less, there's less houses that are paying mortgages on their house. And then when you look at the people who do have mortgages on their homes, they're not making like 2 and 3 and 5% is a lot for them. So it's like, this is where those neighborhoods come into funding. And keep in mind, if you're a business owner, right, and you need to fund your business to a degree, you can't really be concerned with doing the right thing when it comes to your business, because you got overhead, you got you got security officers, salaries that you have to pay. So you can't really say, well, just because a neighborhood organization can't meet the bill, well, let me do it for free. It don't work that way, because you're paying people's livelihood. So, and again, if you got Black men, or that, and women for that matter, that are signing up to put their life on the line to be security in neighborhoods that are, let's say, make lesser money overall, well, it has to be an incentive for them to do that. And incentive cannot be a low wage. It can't be that. So therefore, somehow you got to get around the taxes. Somehow you got to get around that homeowners association issue, at least in poor areas. I know, for instance, what might work, and this is just an idea because I understand that there's funding out there for this, is there's a lot of churches in the Black community. If churches felt the need to say, we need 24-hour security, and we all banding together under, let's say, the Christian Episcopal community, the Baptist community, whatever one is. If everybody band together to say, our property, and let's say within a certain amount of feet from our property, needs 24-hour surveillance with cameras and personnel, then the community can have, security. Why? Because there's a church on every other corner. That means within a 1 mile radius, you would need a certain level of security just to secure the churches. Therefore, they're still in the neighborhood. So I'm just saying, there's a way around it, but you can't approach it the same way you would in a place where the average income is $120,000 versus the average income is $25,000. It got to be different, because again, at the end of the day, people's bottom line is they need their check, because they got kids to feed at home. So, I mean, it's unfortunate that we got to do this, but I'm be honest with you, if we want security in our neighborhood, we have to do that. Now, in my line of work, I'm trying my best to educate people, especially organizations, Christian organizations and Islamic organizations, as to federal funding that can help with some of these efforts, right, on their property. Now, again, the police utilizes some of, let's suppose the crime happened across the street from a mosque, right, a masjid. The police are going to go to the masjid and say, hey, let us see your security footage. They're going to ask for it, right? So my thing is, if religious organizations are helping police serve crime, right? Essentially, they are the security personnel in the community. So they need to be secured as well. If they need extra security, just simply because this is not just an in their organization type of thing, like inside the property, but rather within the broader context of the neighborhood, that could work without it being a neighborhood association issue. So these are just ideas that I'm coming up with because I understand that funding issue is where everything stops and pauses for like 10 years on every point. Like seriously, that's where it's at. So we got to get around that.
True indeed. Hey, Miss Polly, what's up?
Gotta welcome Miss Polly to the panel. Miss Polly, what's going on? You are muted, Miss Polly. You know what I mean? I think she's struggle streaming right now. But I mean, she's about to get on it. So, you know what I mean? Okay. So, Lola, have you had, okay, Miss Polly, you there? You struggle streaming, family, struggle streaming. Oh, she'll get to it. So my question is for Lola. So Lola, have you had any type of situation where you went through or your family went through police brutality? Right? Because that's what I asked the brothers earlier. So for you as a woman, have you gone through it? Has any of your family gone through it?
I've never personally been through police brutality. I think the worst that I went through personally is when I bought a vehicle from Virginia. And in Virginia, it's legal to drive with just one plate in the vehicle in the back. And what happened was I bought the vehicle from down there. I come up to Maryland. There was no place to put a front tag on there, right? So I just had it in the dashboard, I think. And a police woman stopped me in my neighborhood back home, and she took my license plate and stuff, and she was like, "Where's the front plate?" And I told her the circumstance, she didn't care. So I couldn't find it at the moment. So I'm fiddling around in the car, and of course it was when my kids were young, and it was just like everything in there. And so I found it. So I opened the door to show her, "Hey, here it is. I just found it." She got out that car quick and pulled her gun on me. Now, mind you, I'm in a suit. I'm on my way to work. I'm in heels. Like I got my makeup done. I got my little coffee, and I'm sitting here like, I know you goddamn ain't pull your gun on me. Like you asked me to find this. I'm trying to help you out. And so she get back in the car, and I'm like, excuse me. And then she's like, get back in the car. So I said, turn that gun away from me. Don't keep pointing that shit at me. And that's when she was like, I need you to get back in the car. And I was like, I'll get back in the car, but don't point that damn gun at me. So she put her gun down, and I got back in the car, and she walked back over. I told her ass about herself. I was like, just because you see me here don't mean that I'm a criminal and I'm trying to kill you. You see what I look like. Like you see, you stopping me from going to work right now. You see this damn badge. Don't be acting like you don't see what you see. Now you see how I can tell the police here, don't come at me sideways like that. Like for real. Like I ain't like don't come at me sideways. I get it. It's the wrong neighborhood to be, acting crazy in. But don't come at me sideways like that because you can clearly see I'm not carrying you like that. So that's what happened to me, but I didn't get brutalized under the circumstance. So keep in mind where I'm at. I'm back home. That's not what happens there. People, they might pull their gun out on you, but they're not fitting to be fighting you, going through all that. Like even it's time to die or time to stay in the car on the seat. But that's me. Now, what happened to my family members though? I had one of my great aunts and uncles, and this is a long time ago before I was born. They left out the house and they were on a road trip, and I guess they were driving through the South because we come from the deep South in North Carolina, and they never came back home. They had children that was being babysat. They just never came back home. And what happened was the police claimed that their bodies were found, but they came into the morgue at different times because of health issues. Both of them had health issues and died at the same time. A husband and a wife had health issues and died and just never came home. She died of a cardiac arrest. He died of diabetes, so they say. Like they were on a trip, like they were driving someplace. And back then when you go on a road trip, you take food with you. I mean, you're not stopping at no hotels because they're probably in the wrong neighborhood, meaning like this neighborhood. There were certain times you couldn't drive through the South as a Black person, or else you would get hanged. So when they said they just never came home, my cousins and them always had like an investigation going to find out what happened to them. It's only until recent times the family found out that the autopsies were inconclusive, And this was problematic, and that when their bodies came in, it didn't come in the way they said it came in. It was on some stupid things. But this is what happened, and the family always believed that they got stopped by police or somebody that looked like police, and they were killed on the road, as many Black people did at that time, by police. That's why it was covered up, because if they just got killed by random people that nobody's seen it in the backwoods of North Carolina, I mean, why would the police need a lot? They're not even involved. So, this is why the family felt that police there was foul play as it pertains to the police. But that's as close as I have gotten as far as like police brutality. I mean, I don't want to say a car, let's say a traffic stop where there's a snarky police officer writing me a huge ticket is police brutality. I'm not going to say that at all, because I got stopped because I was going 3 miles more than the sheriff. Okay, mind you, this was also in North Carolina. Not even in Virginia, North Carolina. Dude stopped me and was like, "Are you okay? Like, you were speeding. You were going 3 miles more than me, and I was going the speed limit." I was like, "Bitch, how was you calculating?" But never mind. That's not police brutality. But for everything else, sure, it happens. I see it happen, right? But it hasn't happened to me and mine. But I'm always cognizant at any given moment it can happen to me and mine, especially my sons and my nephews, and my cousins. So I don't forget that just because it hasn't happened to me directly.
Miss Polly, I think yeah, you're good now. Your internet is good. You know what I mean? You're clear. I see you. You know what I mean? What's going on, sister? What do you got to give into this topic? How do you feel about police brutality? Have you been affected?
Yeah.
What's going on?
I hope. I will say I only personally, I don't know. I usually don't have problems. I don't really get pulled over or anything. But there was only one time actually I went to jail, but it was because I just didn't I didn't know the rules here where I moved. So basically I was taking my boyfriend to work one day, and I was a couple years ago, like 5 years ago. I said we went to work, and we got pulled over or whatever. No big deal, but he's rather big gentleman, and they pull us over, and it made us like sit in the car for a little bit, and I was like, well, why is it taking so long? I was like, what's going on? And all of a sudden, like 6 cars, like just came, 6 extra cars. And I was like, Lord, like, did we do something? I was really, really confused. They asked him to step out the car, which I was like, what's going on? They asked him to step out the car. So he's like 6'5". He was probably like 480 at the time, about 460, 480. And so I was like, oh man, like, what did we do? We don't really do anything special. So I was like, what happened? And they asked him to sit out the car. They asked him to sit on the ground. And I was like, I was pregnant at the time. And I was like, why do they have him sit on the ground or whatever? And the cop asked me to come to the back of the car. And he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, I just want to talk to you for a second. I was like, oh, okay, what's going on? And he was like, well, he's like, you have a warrant. I was like, well, what did I do? I was like, I don't, he's like, well, he's like, you didn't appear to court for a ticket for you not your seatbelt or something. And I was like, oh yeah. I said, well, don't you guys just pay that here? He's like, no, you actually have to go to court for each ticket. I was like, I never heard of that before. I was like, where I'm from, if you just know you did it, you just pay the ticket. You know what I'm saying? You just owe the ticket. I'm like, that's what I do when I'm in Florida. I was like, if it's you, whatever, they give you the ticket, you just pay it, but not here. So I was like, he's like, you're supposed to show up. And if the judge is a strict judge, he can put you out for you. So I was like, okay. So I'm like, so what happens? He's like, well, basically you'll appear and then they'll just make you pay the ticket. I was like, what? But anyway, the whole purpose of that was, I was like, well, why do you guys bring so many cops out here? I'm like, I'm just, I'm pregnant, like really pregnant. It's like, what is the whole big deal? And he was like, well, we just want to make sure, we were safe. And I was like, what you mean you were safe? And I didn't realize it. It was because of him. It's because his size. He was literally scaring everyone. They literally brought out like 6 other like literally cars. And I was like, this man's like a gentle giant. He ain't doing nothing. He's a chef. He don't care. You know, like, he cared, but like, he's not going to do nothing crazy. They were like, we just want to make sure he was good and you were good. And I was like, that's a lot. That's a lot. And it was right in front of his job. So I was like, that's a lot. It was already a lot. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I know I did. And you know what's so funny when they put me in jail? Well, when they put me through the process, they were just so nice. You know, they was like, I like your bra. It's got the wires. I was like, yeah, I was sharing my bra experience. And then they forgot me. So I literally just like sat in the waiting area the whole time. Then obviously I got bailed out. I didn't even go in the back or anything. I was just sitting around. They kept asking me, they're like, why are you here? And I was like, oh, well, I think they forgot me. They literally forgot me. Like for a long period, it was horrible. But it wasn't really, I was watching TV. But the point is like, they really made a big scene because of just his appearance. And he's a gentle giant. They literally call this man baby. It's like, he really is a big baby. So every time I really experienced something that where it's like really excessive in my mind, for what it was, and it wasn't even for him. That's what got me. He wasn't going to jail with me. Threw us all off. So that was kind of weird. I think that was one time I experienced it in a pullover situation, where I could see they can get excessive or worry so much. And we weren't yelling. Nobody was like, "Hey, why are you doing?" Nobody did any of that. We were like chill. We were like, "Oh, okay." We just didn't know. You got to go through the flow, But it was just a lot of excess people and things like that for like no reason at all. So that's all I have to really add to that part.
Okay, Miss Polly. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. You know what I'm saying? Now, okay, so I see Lola over there taking notes. I don't know for what, but I guess she's prepping for something. But with that being said, right now, okay, let's say we do start getting our own police force. We do start getting our own legislation. We do start doing all that other stuff, right? You know what I'm saying? My question was, don't sometimes we bring the issue on ourselves, right? A lot of times people we know those ones who be up in the hood, up to no good. All right? They move, they're doing caping, you know what I mean? Moving capers, you know what I mean? Doing notorious crimes, you know what I mean? Yeah, they getting it in. You know what I'm saying? They know that they out here being a villain, chilling like a villain, you know what I mean? So when we bring the issue on ourselves, right? How the police supposed to respond, right? You know what I mean? We know the brothers and sisters that, it'd be about, let's say it's a whole group of them. Let's say it is a gang, right? Whole group of them, right? And you got 2 police officers. They got police this gang. You know what I mean? Should they just be able just to, pull up and just, if they gotta just pull out and do what they gotta do, they gotta pull out and do what they gotta do, right? They have to police a whole gang in one community, right? How how can we tell them to respond accurately to that? Like, what are they supposed to do? What y'all think?
Well, first of all, when it comes to responding to gang affiliation, this is in part why the private security is there. Because in part, okay, this security is not so much about just jobs, right? It's about regulating the processes that go on within the community. Meaning that when you have more people from the community employed, you have less crime. We know that. Where you have high rates of crime that are openly done, where now there's people there watching, there's less of that. I'm not saying it's going to totally eradicate it, okay? Because obviously that's why the Jewish community have it, because it's not going to eradicate it, but it'll make it a reasonable level. Sure, there's a place for regular city municipal type of police officers. And that's what I think is good. Whereas, for instance, where you have communities that are regulated by security officers, those security officers will call in police, city and state local officials if needed. Meaning this, when you go over to, I don't know if it's London or certain places in Europe, right? They have local police that are unarmed, And the only time armed police are called is if they call for the armed police. You call the regular police that are unarmed. If they feel that the circumstance warrants a armed police, the armed police will come. There is no you call the police and armed police show up because you don't like what's going on in the backyard next to you. Like, that's not how this works. Versus here, armed police are coming to every single call. And this is why the issue comes up, because as soon as, like, for instance, I was in an argument with someone right in my house, and then suddenly the police walked in. I live on the second floor, my bedroom's all the way in the back. How they just get in my house? I don't know who let them in the apartment building, and they just walked up in my house, and I'm like, how y'all know my door was open? But this is what happened, and they all are armed. They coming in with the little Bluetooth radios and all their boots messing up the floors, and then they all got guns on them, and then they all hostile because they don't know what's going on. They in somebody's house. This is what I'm saying. When you have security personnel that are unarmed already in the community, it alleviates some of this issue. Now, when it comes to gangs, I'm gonna be honest with you. If somebody want to be in a gang, I don't have a problem with it. I got a problem when you're killing folks. I got a problem with when you are pushing illegal narcotics in places that's visible for children and other people to see that are paying taxes. If you want to push drugs in your house and mail that shit or nobody knows about it, I don't care what you did. I don't care what them people doing in your house, but don't let it be visible to me. And I think everybody can appreciate that, because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to eradicate people smoking crack. That's not what I'm trying to do. No, what I don't want is crackheads walking down the street with their mirrors sniffing in front of people. That's what I don't want. You can sniff in your house. Sniff in your house, smoke it all up, but don't bring it outside. And I don't want the police running up in somebody's house, raiding them for 2 ounces of crack. I just don't want that. That makes my property value go down if the house next door getting raided because they was in there smoking crack. Let them people smoke as much crack as they want to. If they out here soliciting it where people can see it in and out of stores, then you deal with them. But no, we're not doing that. It's like when it comes to violent crime, this is where armed police officers are needed, but they should be called to that scene because they are armed. Everybody shouldn't be coming to every scene armed. Like, this is the problem right there. So I get it. They do need to be armed when they're dealing with stuff like cartels and people that are already armed, stuff like that. But again, we're not talking about communities outside of our own. We're talking about our own community. And I'll be honest with you, in our own community, we have a certain culture here. Like I said, do as you please, but do not do it where we can see. That's part of the culture here. In other communities, it might not be like that. They might feel like, listen, we want to know what's going on in your house and, all of that, whatever. But that's not the culture I come from. Culture I come from is if you in your house and respecting everybody else outside your house, fine. But the minute that shit come out and affect somebody else, this is where the problem is. So I'm okay with police dealing with gang violence with armed police officers. I'm okay with it. But I think it should be after the community police says, hey, like the Jewish community, when they got a problem and it gets too far for them to handle, first thing they call it is an armed police officer from the city. That's the first thing they do. Okay? So it's like if they can do it, everybody else can do it. But keep in mind, again, they are paying for that. And I mean, yeah, we got an issue with payment over here. So we'll get there.
Hey, what was the question again?
The question is, like, what do we do when they bring the ish on themselves? Gangs, all that, right? What are the police supposed to do? They're sending y'all outside. You know what I mean? And we all know y'all up to no good. We know y'all up to no good. You know what I mean? Y'all laughing, the hip hop music playing, y'all dancing and all that. Mm-hmm. Girl walk by, you say, hey, come here, girl. You know what I mean? They smack on the butt or whatever, you know what I'm saying? She's like, get
come
over
here, girl. That's right. You heard what Mr. Ben said. Come here, girl.
You know what I mean? You know how they be acting. Come on. You know what I mean? Some of you want to be outside with them too. So some of y'all be outside with them too. So I ain't gonna let y'all off the hook either. So Sean, what are they supposed to do, man? What are they supposed to do?
Man, honestly, there is a problem with personal responsibility in our community. I mean, we do have a problem with, moral failings or whatever you want to call it. At least we do have that. What are police supposed to do? There is a level, though. There's a level of callousness in the way they treat people. like just regular everyday people. Not all. I won't even say some. I don't even know the percentages, but the ones that are violent are consistently violent. The ones that are predatory are consistently predatory. Those special squads are consistently problematic. We had one, I don't even know the name of them in my city. They were calling them the Jump Out Boys. I watched them just beat about 12 cops on this one guy in this corner store. There was this a vice squad that was into prostitution and all kinds of stuff. Not solving or stopping prostitution. They were in on the prostitution. Like, so they were soliciting and tricking people out. I mean, so there's a lot of corruption in the police force. So it's hard for me to verbalize what they should do when they're as bad as this, the problem that they're trying to solve. So it's hard. But I do know that there's a level of humanity that you can approach with any problem. Every gang member that's out there probably they didn't start there. They didn't start there, and the hope is that they won't finish there. So there has to be something in between knocking heads and like being, I guess, passive policing. I'm not sure exactly what. Honestly, don't have a good solution, because you have to be as dangerous as the people you're trying to, like, gangs are violent. So you have to be as dangerous as the gangs that you're trying to police. But you also don't have to be as vicious, like that old Bible thing. Wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. Like, you need to know the tactics. You need to be as forceful, but you should not be as vicious, especially against innocent people. So, I mean, there's ample video of people, cops shooting at moving targets with innocent citizens within the line of fire, like stuff like that. That kind of that mentality is like what do you call that? The recklessness and the callousness is where I think we need to condition that out of police officers. I think a lot of Black people could live with violent police officers responding to violent threats if the recklessness and the callousness was not a part of the recipe.
Man, thank you, Arshawn. Thank you. M3, I know you've been watching, brother. Salute to you. Anything you want to add, M3, to this whole conversation, man? You know what I mean? The question is, what do you do when the gang's out of control, or just your experience with police brutality itself, man? Share, you can answer the question, you can share your perspective. What's going on, M3?
What's up, everybody? Is my mic good? Okay,
yes, sir.
Cool. Yeah, sound good.
All right, cool. Well, here's the thing. Thank goodness that, none of our families have really experienced police brutality, whether it be in our neighborhoods or within us. And even I had relatives that was actually doing crime. Thank goodness that it wasn't as bad as where you had to put someone down or, resort to any type of violence. But what I came up here, right, is to talk about certain things, so how other officers, are treating Blacks. And I know one of the questions that was also brought up was how can an officer do his job? And pretty much the solution to that is, you should treat us like how you'll treat the white people. But you don't. And I know you won't. And the reality is that, the law enforcement, back in the early 19 or maybe the late 1800s, police officers or law enforcement in general, and I'm not saying all, okay, because I know that all police will be coming after me, but most, right, were funded, or inspired by the KKK. So if you think about this, the police enforcement was already designed to pretty much delete us, to keep us in control, in line, if that makes sense. And that's why, when you go, excuse me, when you get into trouble, as opposed to, white skin in trouble, a white man could punch a police officer, could pull out his knife and stab one of them. But ain't none of them gonna draw the guns like that and shoot them on sight. As opposed to like blacks, you got to make sure you don't do anything wrong. Don't sneeze. Don't move your hands too fast because they look at us as a threat, and they was trained to do that. Now I know a person who actually worked in the police force. He's a detective now, but he's from Cleveland. And man, this dude, right? You'll think he's like an angry dude, but he faced so much of racism within the department, and a lot of things that that goes inside the police force, like in his area in Cleveland. A lot of them was really trained to like look at us as a threat and to be ready to like take us out by any means. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on like that we don't even really know, behind the scenes, and why like they act that the way they do. The only thing we could just go by is like how they treated like our ancestors back in history, you know, and what was it really made for anyway? It was for us to protect and to serve, but not for us, but for them. Why do you think a lot of police officers are white? I don't know the statistical number, that are employed, but most of them become like those type of officers because they still enjoy power. Power is everything for them. Power and control. So as long as they have the right to abuse, talk shit, arrest our asses, and to execute us. Oh, a lot of them's gonna take that position. People will no matter if you go under oath or whatever. Oh, they'll make a way. They know your history. They know what clan you joined into. But it's all part of the system to make sure that they are constant. Their people are protected away from us.
Yeah, thank you for sharing them three. And to answer Just Jay's question, I don't think none of us work in law enforcement. I don't think none of us do. If anybody do, let it be known, but I don't think none of us do. Nah, we don't. So, Mr. He said, bro, been quiet for a minute. Know what I'm saying? What do the police do, man, when the brother's up to no good in the hood? What are you supposed to do? There's about 15 of them outside. Music blasting. Come here, girl. Know what I mean? Come sit over here. What's good, baby? You want something to drink? What up? You know what I mean? This is what's going on outside. You know what it is. What are they supposed to do? They terrorize the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Going nuts. Going ape shit.
Absolutely.
What are you supposed to do, Mr. E said? Talk to me.
I'm in line with M3. They have to protect and serve. That's what it says on the side of the car. And that's where, I really hang my hat that they have to have a certain level of human service capability to, find out and dispense the proper authority and proper aggression where it should go. Like, Arshawn said that everybody don't deserve that protocol, quote unquote. And again, I know they have to remain safe. They definitely have to make it home. So, I would say dispense that aggression, dispense that, hard, tough love, authority, whatever you want to call it. But when you got those 15 young guys, you definitely have to approach that scenario with a certain level of aggression. They're not going to respect, a docile, passive approach. So in that situation, you definitely want to address the situation, but you want to make sure that the people around, the innocent bystanders, so to speak, are not affected by this situation. So again, just a level of being able to assess a situation, maybe de-escalate a situation, and just dispense the proper authority when necessary. I think they move more on a patrol and control basis, and like everybody else said, has a certain level of insensitivity that isn't warranted for most people. But for those insensitive criminals, those young 15-year-olds that you were talking about, absolutely approach it with confidence, approach it with conviction, and get those young guys out of there. But again, display a certain level of humanity and empathy to let them know that, you know, you were young at a time, and you understand that they may be latchkey, they may need somewhere to go, or maybe some suggestions, or, you know, something, so on and so forth. But I just think you got to display a certain level of sophistication in that profession. It comes with the oath of protecting and serving, and with that oath you took.
Facts. You know what I mean? And it's funny now too. It ain't funny, but it's real. Now when the police show up, man, some of these inner cities, they be having a dog with them. They be having a big old RoboCop gun. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't have no regular gun no more. They got like that big old, I don't know what type of gun it is. They got like all the gadgets on the dang on gun. You're like, dang, who they going hunting? Like they got the hunting guns out there. You know what I mean? So, and unfortunately, in the environment that we live in, man, sometimes they gotta do what they gotta do, man. Unfortunately, I hate to say it. Miss Polly, what's going on? I think Miss Polly in the Matrix. She dang sure is. Lola, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Well, it's part of the reason why the dogs are there is because there is a legality with timing on police patrol stops. Meaning, for instance, like in order for them to search the car, they have to have something filed the car. They might have to have a warrant. They might have to have a whole lot of stuff. But if that dog is there and that dog pick up on any illegal substances, they don't need nothing. So they keep that dog there because legally they can't hold you till a commissioner or judge say, okay, go ahead. They can't do that. But if they got that dog there, now you got issues. So it's like, but here's the thing. It's an inconvenience to people who are not trafficking illegal substances, right? It's an inconvenience. However, you know, I haven't seen a dog sniff and be wrong, so I can't be like, well, the dog can try and be wrong. But it's just a real inconvenience to taxpayers when it's like talking about traffic stops. And this is the issue too. And I think to a degree, this is just training. If you're stopping someone because they were driving recklessly or they made a wrong turn or they went through a red light, deal with it. Okay? I get it. Sometimes it'd be criminals running red lights. But if all somebody did was didn't put their blinker on, as a police officer, just deal with the goddamn blinker. Don't sit and try to figure out, you know, what are their intentions in the city. It's like, that's not your business unless you have probable cause to think that they are carrying something else. Like, if you got open liquor bottles or you smell meth coming out the car, that's different. But a lot of times when police stops, it be like one time I seen a police shoot inside of a car with a man's hands outside the window. This level of fear needs to be eradicated. And a lot of times white people fear the people that they're supposed to be policing, like internally fear them. Therefore, they're on hyper vigilant alert just because they have to do regular traffic stops. And my thing is, if you're scared to get out the cruise and you feel like you're going to lose your life because you have to approach somebody that innately you kind of feel like might hurt you more. Listen, you don't need to police. You don't need to be police. I don't care what color you are. You don't need to be police. Like, this is not a job for scared people. It's just not. And this is why I kind of have an issue with women being on the force. Like, I feel like there's a need for women on the force, but when it comes to like that frontline circumstance, it's like I've seen too many women get pummeled in the street because, first of all, they're not professional fighters. Okay, first of all. Second of all, they do the dumbest stuff when it comes to approaching people. As a woman, you grab a man's wrist if you want to. See what happens. I mean, and you're not a professional fighter on top of that. Like, come on. Like, I've seen some crazy stuff go down, and I'm sitting here like, the training is off. I mean,
wait, hold on. Are you saying that women should not be police officers?
No. I didn't say they shouldn't be police officers, but there's a need for women on the police force. There is. However, that front line stuff, for instance, if somebody called for backup, right, for a hostile circumstance where you're going to be taking down a full man or a couple men, it shouldn't be one female up in there doing that. Like I've seen, and here's another thing. I've seen sometimes men punish women on the force by only responding. Oh shit!
Oh, technical difficulties. Damn.
Wait, did she froze too?
I think she did. I think she did. I think it died on her.
Okay. Let me say something real quick.
Go ahead, bro.
I'll make it short. So, I also just want to make it clear too. All right, that I'm really nothing, against like police officers. I'm not saying anyone is saying that, but I know maybe some people in the chat are police officers or they have some type of experience of law enforcement, and I'm open to being wrong with my own thoughts. What I'm saying about certain police officers, and how they operate things, but it is really hard to really because here's the thing. Part of me is like, hey, look, we do have some good officers that's around, and maybe they're stressed out. This is a stressful job. Like you are putting your life on the line, and you do have families, so you have to protect yourself at all costs. But you also have to keep in mind too, the media is only going to highlight like the few negative cops, the few bad cops that's out there who are maybe military minded, where they probably will go to the extreme. Maybe they have some type of PTSD or whatever the cause is. But I know not all officers are bad people. It just sucks that the bad people have a louder voice or have a louder outcry as opposed like to the good that's out there. And then we do have the good cops, and so I hear, from actual police officers, they'll tell you, they'll get like expelled, like well, not expelled, but they'll get fired, laid off, or whatever, because there is a code to it. There is a code in law enforcement that you have to like, your police officer literally comes first before anything else. And if you see something, you better turn a blind eye. Those are things that I hear from, like I said, a buddy of mine who had years of like doing law enforcement. So.
No, I mean look at the comment that she put up. Military and law enforcement occupations have high DV and alcoholism stats, and I think that's just indicative of our country. This is America. This is what we do. It's not going right. Just like relationships, just like marriage. Like look at the end results, and whatever we're doing, we're not doing it right. So I hear what you guys say. They do have to make a home to their family. They do have to take their safety in all counts. But here's the thing, that the best way to protect yourself is to be nice to somebody. The people who I'm nice to rarely want to hurt me. And again, indicative of our relationships, indicative of our marriages, we searching for the answer, but the answer is right in front of our face. We could get a lot more flies with honey than with vinegar. And police officers are not going to maybe see it like that, or maybe accept that rhetoric, but they're just like the Catholic priests. They're just like Black people. They have a certain perception throughout society, and they need to change that perception. And you have to take the accountability on yourself and say, I know we have a bad perception, but I'm going to be the change that I want to see. And if I see anything going on around me, I'm going to say something about it. So, it's just like a bully. The only person that could stop a bully is their peer, because within the first 10 minutes, they'll stop when somebody their age says, yo, stop picking on him. And it's just like that with everything else. The only people that could speak to women is women. The only people that could speak to men is men. And the only people that could speak to cops is cops. But until they say, yo, take the blue wall down, we cannot stand by and watch y'all, hurt innocent tax-paying people, and we're going to say something about it. But until that happens, we're going to be right where we are.
But you don't think that that's happening now? Because I've heard police saying that they're retiring early because they're tired of feeling like whatever they do, they're going to get punished for it. And now that video cameras are a thing, people are losing their jobs faster. And as you know, Black police officers lose their jobs at a higher rate when they discharge their firearm than white police officers. Like, we see them going to jail and doing time a little bit more often now that people got them phones and them cameras out. And on top of that, when they do get into these prisons, a lot of them don't come back the same, if you catch my drift. Just
You're
saying.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Let me reply to this though. Imagine just like an EMT medic, right?
Mm.
Imagine you as an officer, you're seeing dead bodies more frequent. Let's say maybe
You said
three to five dead bodies within a week, something like that.
Mm.
You know, depending on the city.
Mm.
And some of them, you probably literally have to like pull out your fire gun and execute them. Not that because you want to, but because now you have no choice because that person is about to harm someone else. And the closest thing that I like around my I won't say my neighborhood, but in the city where I'm at, there was like a Latino father who had to be gunned down because you know he was doing harm like to his wife and his daughter, but more so he was doing harm like to his wife, and I think he literally had the gun like to her forehead. And he was going to get ready to pull the trigger, and they had to respectfully pull him down. Now the sad case in point is the little girl doesn't have a father, but all this could be prevented if maybe there was like some type of treatment for men with mental illness, mental health, or whatever, or maybe it was just like a downright dirty bastard. But regardless of the cases, you know, it really plays with a person's psyche. I tried to sign up to become a police officer at one point, but I had post-test anxiety and I still have it, so that didn't allow me to do it. And I'm glad that I didn't pass because I know I couldn't bear to try to take someone out. And I honestly, and this is what I will go with the feeling part of it. I'm not gonna say I think I feel. I feel that if I were to execute someone, then who knows what I would have done next. So I'm just trying to put myself in their mind frame, and especially if you are responding to things emotionally at this point, because it's critical thinking. It's their life or your life, and I know for me, if I had to take someone out to preserve my life, I would definitely do that. And some they're just trained to not really feel at all. But eventually, all that stuff will come back to them, and that's why I mentioned about the PTSD part because it really messes up their mind like that. And to be honest with you, I feel sorry for them more than I feel sorry for the criminals. At least the criminals, they know what they're doing. But as an officer, it's like, okay, you're stuck in a hard place. So it is a rough job, and maybe some people shouldn't really sign up to be a police officer if you can't handle it. Right. That goes for the military and everything else too. Those jobs are not easy, you know. And I'm only speaking for like the officers who probably had like the righteous intent. You probably think, okay, like you're here to save people and save people's lives, but now you're contributing into like taking people's lives away. So yeah.
I mean, I get it, and he said, I mean, at the end of the day, it's common sense that if you're going to be in a job where you have the authority to take someone's life, you have to have a certain level of discernment and a certain level of wisdom and a certain level of patience and a certain level of professionalism. We don't see that on our police force because outside of their regular pay, there's a lot of kickbacks for doing a lot of illegal stuff. Now, I'm willing to say that I think there's more contraband and illegal money floating around at the precinct as it is on your local cut rate corner. Okay, I have a funny suspicion that people don't care about their regular paychecks because they get kickbacks that's bigger than their paycheck. Okay, because you're not going to tell me people are willing to lose their jobs over 30 grand. You're not telling me that. Have you ever went, like, for instance, I used to work for the state, right? And they was paying me just under 30 grand.
And I remember when I found out McDonald's was getting ready to go to $15 an hour, I straight walked into HR and said, if that takes place, I'm quitting. Just understand that's gonna be my last day. Because I didn't ask y'all for a raise. And you haven't, and now McDonald's workers is about to make the same as me, you out your fucking head. And I was ready to walk out because at the end of the day, my bottom line is that dollar. I'm not working there because I feel like it's a good thing to work with the public. No, and I don't even think police officers, honestly, are police simply because, oh, well, it's good to have security in our neighborhoods. Like, that's not really why they do. A lot of times they have family members that are police and it's just a family thing. A lot of times they got little men and little dick issues. Other times it just might be that, hey, this was a nice job and, you know, it paid well and I'm out here in the middle of America and I don't have nothing else to do. Like, it's a lot of things, but very rarely is it because, oh, this is just the right thing to do. Stop, don't give people that much credit to say, oh, well, you know, they're doing it because it's the right thing to do. Like, that ain't what that is. Like, that is not what that is. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're wrong for their bottom line, but keep in mind, they have a bottom line. They can't be but so nice to people when that doesn't pay well. It doesn't pay well not to stop people and give them tickets, like stupid tickets. Like, it pays to give people stupid tickets. Ticket. That pays. There's money involved with that. So when you say, well, that's not right, sure. But you talk about humans here that don't get paid well. On top of that, they get paid more to do more illegal stuff. It's like, you got to take away the incentive for people to do that. What's the incentive? See what I'm saying? All this backdoor money that they get. Like, what is it? And I don't know if you guys know about some of the politics that happened in Maryland. There was this push during certain mayors, certain terms, where they were trying to add more jobs to the community to stop some of the back end stuff, right? But then when other mayors came in, the first thing they did was they cut all the funding to everything that had to do with creating jobs and put it into the police force. Because the police force said they need more money to do more policing. Now, you would think, well, if these funds are going into not needing as many police, why are we going to just stop and give it to police? That doesn't make any sense. But keep in mind, you got politicians at play. You got people's back pockets that need to be ruled out. So it's like, this is the issue. It's not so much about, well, why don't these people just do what's right? The reason is because there's too much money involved in it. Like, when you talk about city council presidents, city councilmen, city councilwomen, you talk about congressmen, these people get paid more money than what you see ever to work part-time. So it's in their best interest to basically allow other people to line their pockets. It's very rare you find a politician that don't care about doing anyone else a favor. Very rare. So this is why more people nowadays are saying, forget the presidency, forget all of that. Deal with the judges in your state, in your city, and city council, and your mayors, because those can be more easily manipulated by the actual people, not by, you know, corporate spending, all sorts of lobbyists and stuff like that. And it's sad that we got to talk about this when it comes to the police force, because this is a very intimate situation when it comes to the public. But yes, it's a very politicized environment. So you can't speak about the police aside from politics. It just won't work.
Okay. All right. Okay, so this is my thing, right? Now, Arshawn, you've been quiet for a minute. What do you think about all the stuff you're hearing, bro?
Only thing I would say, I agree mostly with a lot of the things people are saying. Only thing that came up a while ago, just real quick, because I know we coming up on 2 hours. Just Jay is right about a lot of things in the chat. I do think, like a lot of people did finally bring up, though, it's not really a color issue. Mr. He said hit it great. It's a culture issue because we're trying to segment it out and just look at police. But if you look at like what the police are policing, you're seeing the exact same problem. If you look into schools, you're seeing the exact same problem. You're looking at the kids. I saw a kid being snatched out of a stolen car and laughing while the cops drug him out. Like, is that the kid or is that the culture that produced the kid? Is it the cop or the culture that produced the cop? So I know it's a culture problem. The other thing that bothered me, and I hate when I hear this, I know it's a tagline and we've accepted it. We've adopted it. The cops, their first duty is to make it home. Wrong. The job specifically is for them to do the job that nobody else will do, that require them to not make it home. That's their duty, to protect us so that we can make it home, the citizens, because we have no protection of our own to the magnitude that they do. They're there to help us make it home. And for anybody that would invade our home, they risk their lives. That's their job, is to risk their lives and put that on, just like the military. I would even say the fire department. Those are jobs where you are supposed to know going in that you are risking your life, risking not going home every single day, and accepting that fact so that you can best serve the population that you're supposed to be working for and working with and working in. But we've adopted a narrative of their first duty is to make it home. Wrong. We don't pay people to go home. It's free to be at home. Like, nobody pays me to walk in my front door. Where else in the world does anybody else get paid? Lola, does anybody pay you to go home?
I ain't no problem.
Mr. He said, I mean, but even then, I mean, just like it's your duty to go home. No, it's not your duty to go home. It's your duty to do your job. And your job, this specific job, requires you to be able to lay down your life. That's the sacrifice that's required. Same thing with the military. It for me, it's like you're having your cake and eating it too. Like, you want all the regard of a hero who's willing to sacrifice, the greatest gift you can do is lay down your life for a friend. The Iwo Jima with the guys holding up the flag, the American flag. The greatest thing you can do is sacrifice for your country, except I've got to get home. I can't really sacrifice, but I want all the credit. Give me all the credit of sacrifice. But I'm not actually about to sacrifice. Like, that's the little flim flam that I really can't get with. If you want all the adulation of being a self-sacrificing hero to the community, be willing to self-sacrifice. That's a part of the whole deal. Self-sacrifice, sacrifice, service. Like, we gotta, that narrative, I can't keep running with that.
Well,
everybody
you do have a good, Marshawn, you really do have a good point on this one. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even think about it, which I'm glad that you brought that up, because unfortunately, that's part of the oath. And that's part of the contract. Somebody has to make sure that the other people go home first. I'll just say like that. As much as I want to be compassionate to all sides of the people of the coin, but unfortunately, the citizens comes first before your own life, because that's the sacrifice that you're making. That's the oath that you're taking.
But why
Same thing.
Why is it okay for the Secret Service to be held accountable to protect the president with their life when they're doing the same security reconnaissance as every other security officer in the world?
Well, say that again.
When the Secret Service sign up, right, they are told in writing that your life comes second to the president's life. You are to protect and serve his life. If a bullet is coming, you get paid to jump in front of that. Hopefully you have your jacket on and it doesn't hit every single organ you have. But this is you get paid to take that bullet first for him. At the same time, the slogan of the police department is the same. They get paid to protect, not to stand behind nobody, not to dip and dodge in case there's some harm being done. They get paid to do what they're doing the same way as the Secret Service. Now, I will give you credit. Secret Service gets paid a lot more to step in front of their bullets. I will give them that. But this is why I say it's about 30 to 40 grand to put your life on the line. I ain't nobody finna do that.
Right. But now, they are grossly underpaid. Underpaid.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna tell me anybody's life is worth 45 grand. Like, that's my problem.
First
but understand, but that's the job. Like, that's my problem.
That's the job.
If you signed on for it, that's the job. Like, I know Just Jay is pushing back on it. Like, well, they want to go home. Everybody wants to go home.
Yeah.
But I also would not take the job that requires me to possibly die in that. But that's why they have so much power, because we're not willing to sacrifice our lives to police our communities. So people that are willing to sacrifice their lives to police our communities get control of the community. Unfortunately, what we found out, they're not really willing to risk their lives to police our community. So now we have a problem. Now we have an incongruity that we need to solve. Well, it's a job that requires you to risk your life, but nobody wants to risk your life. And if we as Black people in the Black community, if we don't want to risk our lives for our community, how can we really expect anybody else to want to?
Right.
Like, so there's a lot of layers of deprogramming that we gotta unpack. Nobody is going to want to risk their life. Nobody's going to want to risk their life. It's just the way it is. I've heard lesser. There are much lesser things that people do not want to invest their time and energy in. In the basic human relations, people won't invest their time into learning better communication skills. But I'm supposed to believe somebody's going to want to take on the job of possibly getting shot to stop somebody in a robbery. It's hard for me to buy that. So I understand why. They'd rather go home first. Well, that's not my community. I'm going to go home. My first duty is to myself and my family. I get to leave you guys to yourselves. You figure that out.
I'll end it like this though, with my own thoughts. You have only two choices, okay? If your life is more valuable than money, okay, if it's more valuable than serving the people, then don't become a police officer. Still carry your own weapon if you feel the need to protect your own family personally and no one else. But if you have the heart that you want to protect other people, these are the things that you have to consider. And yeah, it will literally suck, like, to be an officer and risk your life for, like, low paying wages. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know how much they get paid around your area. California, they only get paid like at least like $5,000 monthly or close to $10,000. Probably not as it might be $10,000, closer to it, but no more than that. And principals get paid way more than become a police officer, and you don't even have to risk your life for anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's
yeah. So that is like, a huge problem that I would say definitely in the police force, that for someone to like really take the oath to like sacrifice their life for other people, you need to pay them for what they're worth. So.
Well, keep in mind too, right? Like, what's it? Just Jay said about if something happens, are we gonna call the police? Let me tell you something, right? When that riot kicked off in Baltimore, and let's say 10% of people were outside and was like, we ain't going nowhere, we burning this bitch down. Every single police and officer and firefighter was busy. Everybody had to call the police that day, including my father, who had a house on fire on their block, and people were breaking in the houses. My father had to pull my great-great-grandfather's saw off out the closet because there was no police officers available, and only 10% of people were outside. Every police officer, imagine if 50% of the population said, we out here, we pulling up on these people. Like, we had a curfew and every police officer was gone. And my thing is, when you call the police, when you live in certain areas, it takes them forever and a day to get there anyway. So if there's a shortage, I wouldn't know. But here's the real problem. Shortage or no shortage, we're talking about policy here. We're talking about people that's not following the policy, which means we're wasting taxpayers' dollars making that policy. Two, we're talking about officers we really don't need, because if they don't know how to police, we can divert some of them funds into programs that will pay private security officers to always be in the community and not in their cruisers, like every great now and then responding after crime has happened. Okay, because they don't prevent crime. In fact, they only do more to incite crime. That's what I'm seeing now. And I'm not saying I don't appreciate police officers. I know police officers. Most of the men in my family were servicemen, so I understand policing. But it's like, I mean, we gotta do what we need to do, like Arshawn said, not without mouth, but our money. If you're willing to pay extra on your taxes, pay extra to your homeowners association, whatever the case may be, help a friend start a business, do that. But do something, because if you want your own police, this requires organization. It doesn't require you to just want it and feel like the municipal people over there at your city should just give it to you. They working with a strict budget themselves. But no, you have to organize and say, listen, no, this is not what it's going to be. I know some communities have tried to create a liaison community that works with the police in certain areas, especially high crime areas. But it really hasn't been successful in my opinion. Like, it has not. then it's just wasted money. So instead of doing that, take another approach. That's what I think everybody is in agreement on. So if you're out there and you're thinking about a business venture, you might want to think about private security. That's a good one. You can create jobs, and it's very lucrative.
Hey guys, I have to get going, but before I leave, I want to say one last thing. I want to make it very, very short. We have our problem is our value system here in America. You'll pay entertainers millions of dollars just to be entertained, but you're not willing to spend money, right, for people that could actually make a difference and save lives. That's all. I'm just going to end off with that. But this was definitely like a good show, good discussion, and I'll see you guys next time.
All right,
them three.
No doubt, salute.
Later, bro.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, we about to close, y'all. Anybody want to give any closing statements, any feedback, any love, anything you want to give?
I just want to say shout out to Just Jay. I can tell that person. I don't know you, Just Jay, but I can tell that you used to be law enforcement. Because you're out here caping too damn hard. But I got you, okay? Now, if you one of the police officers that look a little rusty and you be stopping people for no reason, okay, problem, okay? All right? I don't care if you're going to blow somebody's head off. You problem stopping people for dumb shit. But it's cool, all right? I'm just saying, you supposed to be on both sides. So don't be up here only caping for them, talking about the trash officers. No, we talking about all the officers that do the bullshit and sit around and watch other officers do the bullshit too. Like the Freddie Gray case. How that boy's spine get broken in 11 places sitting in the back of a cruiser. Seriously? Okay? And don't nobody know nothing? Stop talking to me about, y'all blaming the good ones and the bad ones. No, we not. We just don't have no reason to talk about the good ones right now because the bad ones is doing too much. Get on the outside, Just Jay. Stop it. Okay? As I said,
Well.
Okay, Miss Lola.
Okay. Mr. He said, go ahead, bro.
Thank you for having me, man. Shout out to everybody on the panel. Most importantly, rest in peace to our sister, QB. And we miss you, and we're gonna keep moving the conversation and the needle forward for this content creator thing. And it was a pleasure, Miss Lola and Arshawn, Mr. Box. Thank you for having me, sir. Always a pleasure. I will end with saying the words of my Baba, Brother Dick Gregory. We can end, police brutality tomorrow if we wanted to. Just give the cops, kids scholarships, free college, day they sign on, first day. And if they do something to jeopardize that, just take it away, because they're not going to stop hurting us because they want to, because they don't want to. So if they were taking away little Jimmy's scholarship, though, or little Sally's scholarship, if they discharge their firearm in an unpleasurable manner, then they would start to think about, taking food out of their own mouths. So, I do understand what everybody is saying, that, there's two sides to it. There's F the police, but there's also good police officers that just want to make it home at the end of the day. But I do appreciate Arshawn's sentiment. I'm going to have to think about that. But great conversation, great panel. Appreciate the chat. Appreciate all of the experiences and the input. Thank y'all for having me. And we on every Thursday at 8 o'clock. He said, she said, love and abundance, man. We in the building.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. This Queversation Awareness Podcast, man. We're going to come with a lot more stuff. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So stay tuned, y'all. Brother Arshawn. You know what I mean? Definitely, man. Close us out, brother. Close us out.
All right, listen, for me, I don't have a lot to say, y'all. I'm not a big salesman or showman, so thank y'all all. Thank you for having me first on the Queversation. Thank you, Lola, Mr. He Said, Mr. Best, everybody in the chat. Appreciate all of y'all, but I'm that's it for me. Hope y'all have a good night.
Lola, you got anything for us, or you good?
Nah, I just want to say thanks for having me up. I enjoyed the conversation, and I look forward to more conversations like this in terms of the serious side of YouTube.
Yes, ma'am. But yeah, y'all, thanks for joining the Queversation Awareness Podcast, y'all. You know what I mean? Definitely. Salute to QB, man. We miss you. You know what I mean? We definitely, this is episode 1. We're going to bring some more awareness to y'all, man. A lot more awareness, y'all. All right? So be ready. Definitely, you know what I mean? Show love to Average Tribe Media Group. You know what I mean? Critically Drinking with our Sean. Everything Lola's doing on Non-Relational Chronicles of Lola. Black Files on here on the Intellectual Soapbox. You know what I mean? Definitely follow the Black as Gold series. Also, you know what I mean? Mr. Bryant is coming back. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Mr. Von Bryant is definitely going to be delivering some new content pretty soon. You know what I mean? Before this month is out, he's definitely going to be bringing some heat. You know what I mean? So shout out to him. You know what I mean? Shout out to Truth and Truthful Thursdays. That's coming up. You know what I mean? Shout out to all of our channels, our sister channels. Man, appreciate everybody in the family, man. Much love to everybody, man. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, with that being said, y'all, have a good evening. I'm about to go and chill out. Give me some fruits and veggies. Let me drink me some water. You know what I mean? Y'all stay safe, y'all. All right? Peace.
DJ.